We all grow up hearing the same promise: work hard, save money, retire at 65, and finally live your life. But have you ever stopped to ask who decided that? Who invented retirement? And why that specific age? Because what if I told you retirement wasn't created for your comfort, but to serve a purpose far more strategic? This isn't just a story about aging, it's a story about control and the illusion of freedom we were taught to chase. Retirement is sold as life's finish line, the reward for decades of sacrifice, an image of peace, beaches, and long-awaited rest. But behind that promise lies a truth no one questions. For most people, the dream of retirement never becomes a reality. In modern times, fewer than half of workers can even afford to retire comfortably, and yet the system keeps us chasing it, working longer, saving more, hoping someday we'll reach the finish line. But if retirement was truly built to give us rest, why was it designed in a way most people would never live long enough to enjoy it? To find the answer, we have to go back to where the idea began. The story begins not in America, but in Germany, 1889. Industrialization had transformed the world. Factories ran day and night, powered by workers who never seemed to stop. But with progress came a problem. Older workers slowed production. They weren't efficient enough for the new machine age. Enter Otto von Bismarck, the German chancellor. To manage this issue, he introduced the world's first official retirement system. The idea sounded noble: pay workers a pension once they reach 65 years old. But here's the twist. In 1889, the average life expectancy in Germany was only 45. That means most people would die before they could ever retire. So was it compassion or calculation? Bismarck's policy didn't reward workers, it removed them. Retirement was born not from generosity, but efficiency, and soon the rest of the world followed. Bismarck's idea traveled fast. Governments saw retirement as the perfect solution to a growing problem. Too many workers, not enough jobs. By the 1930s, during the Great Depression, the United States adopted its own version: Social Security. The concept was the same: retirement at 65, but again, most Americans never made it that far. Then corporations took notice. If the government could promise retirement, so could they. Companies began offering pensions, tying workers' futures to long-term loyalty. The longer you stayed, the more secure your retirement became. It wasn't about kindness, it was about control, a way to keep workers obedient, stable, and dependent on the system. Because the more you believed in the dream of retirement, the less likely you were to question the system that sold it to you. And just like that, retirement became a cornerstone of modern life, a beautiful illusion with a corporate signature. Retirement became the perfect psychological tool. It told workers, endure now, freedom later, a promise so powerful it shaped how generations lived their entire lives. People stopped asking for fulfillment. They started asking for survival. The dream of future rest made the present struggle tolerable. It wasn't about giving you freedom, it was about giving you a reason not to rebel. Sociologists call it delayed liberation, a system that trades your best years for the promise of rest that might never come. And here's the twist most people miss: the system doesn't want everyone to retire. It needs constant labor. If too many people retired early, the economy would collapse. That's why the age keeps rising and retirement keeps feeling more distant. So while we're told it's our right, in reality, it's the reward that keeps us running, a carrot dangled at the end of an endless race. But the deeper reason retirement survived wasn't just psychological, it was economic. Retirement isn't just a life stage, it's an industry. An entire global economy depends on it. Pension funds invest trillions of dollars into markets. Insurance companies profit from your uncertainty. Governments collect taxes from the dream you're chasing. If people suddenly stopped believing in retirement, stocks would crash, policies would fail, and whole institutions would lose power. That's why the system needs the dream to stay alive. Retirement gives structure to society. You study, you work, you save, you rest. In that exact order, it keeps generations cycling smoothly. But here's the irony. In today's world, most people are retiring poorer, older, and more uncertain than ever. Inflation, automation, and corporate cuts have turned the promise promise of peace into a financial nightmare. So the question is, if retirement no longer works for the people it was meant to serve, why does it still exist? The answer takes us into the modern world, where the illusion has started to crack. In 2025, the retirement dream looks weaker than ever. Most people can't afford to stop working, even after decades of effort. The average savings barely lasts 10 years, but still, society clings to the idea. Why? Because the belief itself is valuable. It keeps the economy stable, it keeps people obedient, and it keeps hope alive. Even if that hope is hollow. In truth, the system never promised freedom, it promised continuity. The few who do retire often find it empty, realizing the system never taught them how to live, only how to work. And that's the darkest twist of all. We spend our youth chasing a dream that was never meant for us to fully reach, because the retirement system wasn't built to free us, it was built to replace us. Maybe the real reason retirement was invented wasn't to give workers peace, but to keep the machine moving. Bismarck didn't design a moral policy, he designed an efficient one, and that blueprint still runs the world today. Governments use it to balance economies, corporations use it to manage people, and society uses it to measure worth by how long you worked and how much you earned. But somewhere in the process, the idea of living got replaced with the idea of earning your rest. We built our lives on a schedule designed over a century ago, a schedule meant for shorter lives and simpler times. Now we're living longer, working harder, and questioning more deeply. Maybe retirement was never the reward, maybe it was the illusion that kept civilization running smoothly, a perfect myth that promised freedom but quietly bought obedience. Maybe that's the real tragedy of it all. Not that retirement was created, but that we built our lives around it without ever questioning its purpose. For more than a century, generations have traded their youth for a reward designed by strangers long gone. We were told it was freedom, but maybe it was only order. A way to keep society moving, because sometimes control doesn't come through force, it comes through belief. This was the real reason retirement was invented. A story about power, purpose, and the price of believing in someone else's dream. Maybe retirement was never the end of work, but the end of illusion. The system still runs, the promises still sell, and the world keeps spinning on the same cycle of effort and hope. So the next time you think about one day, ask yourself, who built that day, and who truly benefits when it finally arrives? Because freedom was never meant to be postponed. It was meant to be lived. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden theories behind the systems we live by. Maybe the real question isn't why retirement was invented, but why we believed it so easily. Systems like these survive because we never stop to look at who benefits from our routines. The story of retirement isn't just history, it's a mirror. And when we finally see our reflection clearly, we realize something powerful. The system was never unstoppable, it was only unchallenged. And maybe now that's finally beginning to change.